Stop what you're doing and pay close attention, because the Indiana Fever front office is learning a very expensive lesson in real time. In professional sports, there's one rule you ignore at your own risk: never alienate the people who drive your success. The Fever are discovering that many of the fans who arrived over the last 2 years are not loyal to the franchise first, they are loyal to Caitlin Clark. And right now, those fans are making it clear that any decision they view as harmful to their favorite player could have serious consequences for the organization. Welcome back to WNBA Pro, the channel dedicated to discussing the business, strategy, coaching decisions, and financial realities of the WNBA without filtering the conversation. If you enjoy this type of coverage, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the Indiana Fever's 2026 offseason has quickly become one of the most debated stories in the league, and the backlash is growing by the day.
You're over being called a racist? Just that quick. Interesting. Okay. Must be nice. I don't get down. I'm not forgiving that. Okay. That's not going to happen. So, and never mind the logistical.
To fully understand why this situation has generated such a strong reaction, you have to look at the bigger picture surrounding the Indiana Fever. This goes far beyond complaints on social media. Many observers believe it reflects a major shift in the relationship between a sports franchise and its fan base. Before Caitlin Clark arrived, the Fever struggled for attention both inside and outside the league. Attendance numbers were low, national interest was limited, and the team rarely attracted widespread discussion. Then Clark entered the picture and transformed the franchise almost immediately. Ticket demand surged, arenas sold out, merchandise sales exploded, and television audiences reached levels the organization had never experienced before. The Fever became one of the most talked about teams in women's basketball, and many fans credit Clark as the driving force behind that growth. That's why the selection of Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick sparked such an emotional response from some supporters. For them, the issue goes beyond basketball. Clark and Raven Johnson already shared a well-known history dating back to the 2023 Final Four, when a viral moment between the two players became one of the most discussed highlights of the tournament. Adding to the controversy, Johnson had previously made public comments criticizing portions of Clark's fan base, describing some supporters as toxic and accusing them of inappropriate behavior. Whether those comments were justified or not, critics argue that drafting a player who had openly challenged a large segment of the team's most passionate supporters created a difficult public relations situation. From their perspective, it was a decision that ignored the feelings of a fan base that has become central to the Fever's recent success.
Longer than 4 letters. Hopefully Snoop Dogg doesn't come for that. Wow. So they went on social media asking for you to buy tickets as a consumer of their product. Ooh.
But drafting Raven Johnson was only the beginning. The situation intensified after head coach Stephanie White spoke during the draft press conference and made comments that many fans interpreted as troubling. The reaction wasn't simply about adding a new player to the roster, it was about how the team's future was being described. When asked about the guard rotation, White explained that Ty Harris could play multiple backcourt roles. She also mentioned that Caitlin Clark has the ability to play both with and without the ball, while describing Raven Johnson as a natural point guard who performs best when controlling the offense. She then added that the increased depth at guard would also create opportunities for Kelsey Mitchell to get more rest. For many fans, those comments immediately raised concerns. What they wanted to hear was a clear statement that Clark would remain the team's primary playmaker and offensive leader. Instead, some supporters felt the discussion suggested a system where Clark could spend more time away from her natural role as the lead ball handler. Critics of that idea argue that Clark's greatest strength is her ability to control the game, create opportunities for teammates, and force defenses to adjust to her unique shooting range. They believe moving her off the ball would reduce one of the Fever's biggest advantages. Modern fans pay close attention to statistics and game data, and many point to Clark's impact as the foundation of Indiana's offense. Because of that, some interpreted White's comments as a strategy that could limit the team's most valuable offensive weapon. 4.
Mitchell back here. Wow. What? guys, there are signs. There are signs now. I'm not sure Caitlin Clark's going to be on this team.
And
this is where the basketball debate began evolving into something much larger. Critics argue that the backlash has expanded beyond social media complaints and turned into a direct response from consumers. Over the past year, the Fever enjoyed enormous demand for tickets, with waiting lists and strong interest becoming a major part of the franchise's success story. Many fans believe that demand was driven primarily by Caitlin Clark's popularity rather than the organization itself. Now, according to critics, the front office may have underestimated how strongly those fans identify with Clark. Reports and online discussion suggest that some supporters have become less enthusiastic about purchasing tickets, renewing packages, or participating in the secondary ticket market. As a result, observers have pointed to increased promotional efforts from the organization as it works to maintain fan engagement and ticket sales. Critics argue that the franchise ignored warning signs surrounding the draft decision and the public messaging that followed. In their view, the organization underestimated how important Clark is to the team's business success and fan support. Whether those concerns prove accurate remains to be seen, but the controversy has created a growing debate about roster decisions, team strategy, and the relationship between the Fever and the fan base that helped fuel the franchise's recent rise.
Fucktards. Right there. Is this a sign? Are they pushing her out of the franchise? God, if you own this team, you better wake up. Clark should leave now. You've got the dumbest front office ever.
We also have to examine the decisions made by the Fever's leadership, particularly General Manager Amber Cox and President of Basketball Operations Kelly Krauskopf. Critics argue that many sports executives fall into the trap of believing they understand what fans want better than the fans themselves. In this view, organizations sometimes assume supporters will continue buying tickets and supporting the team regardless of controversial decisions. According to frustrated fans, that's exactly what happened here. They believe the front office focused strictly on basketball considerations while overlooking the public reaction that would follow. What makes this situation unique is the nature of Caitlin Clark's fan base. Many of her supporters were introduced to women's basketball because of her. Their loyalty is centered on Clark herself rather than a specific franchise or even the league as a whole. Unlike traditional fan bases that remain attached to a team through every era, many Clark supporters are primarily invested in her success. Because of that, critics argue that any decision perceived as limiting her role, reducing her influence, or failing to prioritize her strengths is likely to trigger a strong response. They believe that if Clark is not placed in the best position to succeed, many of those fans could simply shift their attention elsewhere.
A lot of people believe that she may be headed to playing small forward. Man, wow. No thanks. I'd like to see Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. Not happening on this team with this coach and with this front office. Great, another year of Stephanie White sabotaging the face of the league.
Looking at the bigger picture, some observers believe the controversy has implications that extend beyond the Indiana Fever. The WNBA recently secured a major long-term media rights agreement worth billions of dollars, with expectations that the league's popularity will continue growing in the coming years. Critics argue that a significant portion of that growth is tied to Caitlin Clark's ability to attract viewers, generate headlines, and bring new audiences to the sport. From their perspective, networks and advertisers are investing heavily because of the excitement and attention surrounding stars like Clark. As a result, some fans worry that any strategy reducing her impact on the court could affect television ratings and overall interest. While a complete fan boycott remains highly unlikely, given Clark's popularity and drawing power, the reaction from season ticket holders and dedicated supporters is being viewed by many as an important warning sign. In their eyes, the message is clear: the most passionate segment of the fan base wants Clark to remain the focal point of the franchise, and they expect the organization to make decisions that reflect her importance to both the team and the league's continued growth.
Caitlin at small forward and push that boring brand of hack and grind basketball everybody hates. God. The Indiana Fever are getting smashed. That's crazy. I mean, woo-wee. I cannot believe.
So how can the Indiana Fever move past this controversy? According to critics, the solution is much simpler than many people think. They don't need more promotions, marketing campaigns, or special ticket offers. What many frustrated fans want is clarity. In their view, Stephanie White should publicly make it clear that Caitlin Clark remains the centerpiece of the franchise and that the team's offense will continue to be built around her strengths. Supporters argue that the uncertainty surrounding Clark's role has become a major source of concern. The longer those questions remain unanswered, the more speculation and frustration continue to grow. As training camp approaches and the new season gets closer, many believe the organization must clearly define its vision for the future. At the center of that debate is a simple question: will the Fever fully commit to building around one of the most influential and marketable players in women's basketball, or will they pursue a more balanced system that spreads responsibilities throughout the roster? For many Clark supporters, the answer is obvious. They want the franchise to place its biggest star at the center of every major decision moving forward. The coming weeks will likely reveal how the organization plans to handle the situation. Fans, analysts, and observers will be paying close attention to press conferences, lineup decisions, and coaching strategies as the season begins. Supporters believe those choices will provide important insight into the direction of the franchise and whether management fully understands the expectations of the fan base that helped drive the Fever's recent growth. Regardless of where people stand on the debate, one thing is certain: the conversation has become much larger than a single draft pick or one press conference. It has evolved into a discussion about team identity, fan influence, and the role Caitlin Clark plays in the future of the franchise. If you enjoyed this analysis, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the Fever will address fan concerns and adjust their approach, or will they stay committed to their current plan? Let the discussion begin, and stay tuned for future updates as this story continues to develop.